Welcome, everyone. So I'm Kelsey from LINBIT. You'll notice other LINBIT employees on here that have our fun virtual background with our deer and our antlers over here. So those are new and fun and fancy, and we're using those now. So anyway, this is just a super casual Zoom meeting. It's different than a traditional webinar. We don't want anything too fancy, too scripted like that. So feel free to raise your hands and we'll call on you if you have a question or anything to like add to our roadmap wish list. You're welcome to just raise your hand and I think Niels will call on you. But otherwise, yeah, we can get started. And Phil Reisner is here, our CEO, one of the founders of LINBIT. So he'll be kicking off the meeting, just starting with the 2022 roadmap of where we're going. And I guess at the end, go ahead and raise your hand and we'd love for you guys to chime in. This should be like a really collaborative experience. So
yes, you can do it by raising your hand, that function, or just typing a question in the chat. Both is possible. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for setting the stage. Then let me start my screen share. Here we go. Okay. So, I reordered the slides. So I'm starting with DRBD. Maybe you have seen the recent announcement, the DRBD 9.2.0 release candidate 1 is out, and it comes with a number of amazing new things. We will do the final release of it before Christmas, so in December. I don't expect that major issues come up. And then in the new year, one of the things is we will need to work on the RDMA transport. So the RDMA transport is added to the open source DRBD release, as with this current release I just mentioned. But it is added as a tech preview. And I expect that it takes us January to set up all the proper testing in our CI pipeline, in our GitLab instance. And then we will see if we can bring it to the same quality as the rest of the DRBD code within the first quarter. Then the other nice thing we have here is this multipath TCP. And I want to start early next year to work on that. And I expect that we have that in the first quarter, maybe get it with the Q2 release of DRBD. What is it about? So right now, DRBD already has support for multiple paths and single connections, but they are used in a strictly failover mode. So it uses either one path or the other. And in upstream Linux, there's a thing called multipath TCP. It was merged relatively recently. I don't know, 5.10, 5.14, something like that. And one of the enterprise distros, so Red Hat, ported it back to its distribution kernel with RHEL 8.5. And with multipath TCP becoming available, I think it's a good idea that we support that in DRBD. I expect it shouldn't be too difficult, so I think we finish that until March the latest. Another big topic is we still have this stacking, and we need the stacking in DRBD to support setups where you mirror between multiple data centers, but also want to mirror within each of the data centers. And the challenge we have here is we don't want to send the data multiple times over the link between the data centers. And plain DRBD9 would do that right now. So therefore, we still rely on the stacking. And I finally want to get rid of that and do that in a more clever way. And so there are some ideas. It needs to be written down, planned. But I think this is something that we will finish probably in Q3 next year. Then another interesting thing, 100 terabyte device. So we don't see that very frequently, but there are use cases where you want to have huge devices like 100 terabytes. So an application for that might be a video surveillance system or where you do backups to disks. And some people need that highly available. So the thing is, it basically works with DRBD, but you need to do a little tuning and handholding. It is just because the bitmap for a 100 terabyte device becomes several gigabytes in size. And then at MD ADM create MD, this certainly takes multiple minutes to write. And it is done with an IO control that is not interruptible. So you get a process that's hanging in D state. It's writing, maybe you don't see it, but you cannot interrupt it. So there are several, let's say, things that are not nicely to use. So we want to fix that. And yeah, I think it's a reasonable estimate to finish that before half of the year. Yeah, and then there is one of the recent things we've done is this receiving acknowledgements in the so-called bottom half context. So this reduces latency of DRBD, and that's awesome. And a similar thing we can do on our data path is this zero copy receive. So it shouldn't be too difficult, but since we have all these other things going on, I estimate that we will do it in the, let's say, later half of the year, 2022. Okay, that's it, what I have for DRBD. Then let's go to LINSTOR. On the LINSTOR side, we had this FIPS validated or validatable cryptography. There was a lot of work already ongoing, so it's more or less proven that it can be done. What's missing though is it's not yet integrated into the master branch. And we will do that, but hide it behind the interface so that we can keep the, let's say, regular crypto and the FIPS crypto in parallel. So that is the to-dos here. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it will be finished in the first quarter, maybe towards the end of it. Authentication and LINSTOR client, and so this is something we haven't had so far because LINSTOR client is a CLI, right? So why would you want to have username and password there? Well, the answer is now there's also a GUI for LINSTOR. I mean, the GUI is an add-on product of our enterprise offering. But with a web GUI, it sometimes feels bad if a web GUI is not protectable by username and password. So this is the background of this feature. And in the moment it's implemented in the protocol, there will be the option to enable it for both, of course. So the web GUI and the CLI client as you know it. Yeah, then we also have here support for better multi-tenancy. So that's something we will focus on in Q2. And what is hiding here behind improving tests? The LINSTOR team has a really astonishing high number of tests. So there are a lot of unit tests. I think it's many hundreds, maybe 600, even more. There is a lot of integration tests, but still there is room to improvement. And recently the team was working on fixing various bugs in the area of locking. And I think this is a natural process in this software getting mature. So this will for sure continue and involve all of this, making it more mature work. And better LINSTOR remote. What I'm hiding behind that is we are in a world where cloud computing is everywhere present. And what analysts identified as the next mega trend is edge computing. So in my words, when I express it, edge computing just means that we have a very high number of availability zones in our cloud, and that we want to automate placing between these availability zones. And this is what I'm hiding here behind the word better LINSTOR remote. So I want that in the future, it will be possible to create resource group where I specify, I want to have 2 replicas and they should be in different data centers. Just choose for me. So things like that. So that is definitely, let's say, in research phase, and in February, we'll begin to add more, make this idea more concrete, check it with our partners. So with, the orchestrators we integrate with. So OpenNebula, Apache CloudStack, the smaller projects where we can speak to them, I guess, yeah. And then if the plan becomes clear, we will see if we can implement something of that in 2022, or if it becomes a 2023 thing. Yeah, and maybe something, it's even not on the slide. So something that's flying around as well is if we have the new feature that replaces stacking in DRBD, we also will need that in LINSTOR. It's not yet here on the slide. And the other thing,
DRBD IO relaying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other thing, WinDRBD. WinDRBD is very, very close before its final 1.0 release. And it makes a lot of sense to have support for WinDRBD and LINSTOR. And I know some developers might run crying out of the room, but it's not that bad. LINSTOR Satellite is written in Java, so that runs on Windows. And Windows has a kind of volume management and DRBD, so it's not that hard. And we have Johannes on our team, the WinDRBD developer. He will do that work, and the LINSTOR guys just need to merge it, review and merge it. Okay, let's go on. The CSI driver, yes. So I would say the CSI driver is already in a very good shape. So we have new versions of our LINSTOR GUI coming up, so that needs to be integrated into the container images. We have this LINBIT SDS for Kubernetes. I think there's some work to do with backup and restore. And the work already has started, so this error needs to come from 2021. So because LINSTOR got the ability to send snapshots to S3 objects and also restore them from there. And I think especially restore is not yet in the CSI world, but that's all things you see. The error is pretty short. I think that should finish even by the end of February. Another thing that's going on, that's going to happen in this space is the Red Hat's operator SDK was updated. So the LINBIT SDS for Kubernetes will get here an update. The operator for the Red Hat operator SDK will get an update. Also, maybe something that's not here on the slide is on the canonical side, they have like their own operator SDK. They call it the charmed operators. So also something will happen in this area. It's not yet here on this formal roadmap, but I'm hinting it's coming. Yeah, then some this let's say ongoing things are whenever the CSI spec moves, we move as well. And we also have an eye on what Kubernetes is doing with federation. And as soon as we have a clear picture how we can integrate our federation features with those of Kubernetes, we do that. So right now we have marked them here as an ongoing process. And last but not least, I want to speak about the LINBIT VSAN. So what's ongoing right now is that we are rebasing the image on Alma Linux. So traditionally, it is based on CentOS 8. But as you know, Red Hat is going to discontinue the support of CentOS 8, well, the maintenance of CentOS 8. There are a number of alternatives like Rocky Linux, Alma Linux, and Euro Linux, and it's actually a long list. Our impression is that Alma Linux is one of the most mature ones. They provide everything in multiple formats, like RPM packages, cloud images, containers, available for multiple architectures, x86, ARM64. So this is a natural choice. The other thing is LINBIT VSAN got also support for NVMe over Fabrics targets. And I think NVMe/TCP as well. But the NVMe over Fabrics integration tests with VMware, this is something that is a little bit challenging for us because that requires 5 real servers with real NVMe hardware available at once. So I hope we have that now through a partner, and I hope that we can finish this integration test until February. And yeah, NFS integration, that's pretty far, should also be finished. in the same time frame. And after we got Alma Linux, we will also get ARM64 images. And what is nice about it is this will literally enable us to have third nodes implemented on Raspberry Pis. So you have two real nodes, x86 with all the storage, and as a third node, use a Raspberry. It's perfect. And what's ongoing here, and it's is that we'll add the LINSTOR GUI in some way. Okay, that's it for the presentation part.
Okay, thank you, Phil. I actually did have a couple of feature requests that got sent in beforehand. If the attendees are here that ask these questions, feel free to chime in. Question one, for the roadmap, is there any automatic rebalancing of replicas in a Kubernetes setup when nodes are removed from the cluster?
That's a good one. It's not yet there, and it requires quite a bit of thinking and planning, because there are so many ways we could do the automatic rebalancing, right? Could be to balance the load or optimize for throughput. And since there are so many options, it might be that we do that in a dedicated component in its own project and daemon that might leverage on the LINSTOR API on the one side, and maybe on collected performance data from a Prometheus monitoring. Yeah, so lots of ideas. I definitely take note of this feature request, and I think it's a good one. It will take us a bit to have a clear plan how we do that.
Awesome. Okay. So there's three. The next one is self-verification and healing of resources.
Yeah, healing of resources. Yeah, I think that means, okay, if a node fails, it gets evicted from a LINSTOR cluster. Evicted,
No.
yeah. No.
Hey, sorry to jump in.
Go ahead, Moritz.
This is related to the online verification and resync feature. We had a feature request on GitHub, and I think it's also in the chat now expanded a bit on exactly this question. So apparently what happens is after some time, after how many failovers, I don't know, some blocks are not in sync anymore, and you would just need to run verify and resync or something related to that. And I think online verification is already set up by LINSTOR, but I don't think anyone triggers the actual resynchronization right now.
Yes, now I get it. Thanks for jumping in, Moritz. Yeah. LINSTOR enables the verification by setting the necessary verify algorithm, but nobody triggers it, right? Yeah, it's a good idea. We will take note of it and add it, and I think it's not difficult.
Okay. And then the last, I guess, wish list, it just says WinDRBD Productions. So I'm guessing it's like, when is it ready for production? Although
everyone waits for that. Now the update I can share is Johannes was hunting down 2 bugs. And that was the status as of, I think, last week. And last week, you know, we sat down in a group of 3, and Johannes presented all the information he had about it, and we got it resolved. The next day we had to fix, and it was really interesting because it's a bug in the upstream DRBD code, so it's also present on Linux. But due to the Linux kernel being a little bit different than the Windows kernel, it never causes harm on Linux. But it's the first time, you know, a bug on Windows unveiled a bug that's actually also in a Linux code. So we fixed that, and now this one is gone. So now the count is down to 1, to my knowledge. So 1 bug to go, and then it gets released. So I would say it can happen every day now. Let's hope it happens before Christmas.
Awesome. Okay. If anyone else has any wish list items, please honestly just unmute and tell us. You're the ones driving development, so we'd love to hear it.
So I know that, or at least I think I know that, so please correct me if I'm wrong, that our LINSTOR CloudStack integration currently only officially supports KVM as the hypervisor. Is there any plan for adding more hypervisors in the future?
Kayla, thanks for bringing up that topic. Yes, so we have intense work going on with the XCP-ng guys. So Xen server, XCP stands for Xen Server Community Project. And that is happening together with the engineers from Vates. And yes, we are evaluating the idea that our CloudStack integration will also work with XCP-ng hypervisors. It's still a little bit in the research phase, so we don't know yet when it will happen, but we have it on the radar.
Awesome, thank you.
I hope we can add a date to it soon.
Anyone else have any follow-up questions to anything Phil said about the roadmap?
Hey, I don't have one myself, but I did notice there was one in the chat. I'm not sure if we got that one already.
I think that in the chat, is there a plan to add a scrubbing service for Kubernetes to ensure resources get verified? I think that is what Moritz and I discussed before. So that's covered.
I wonder how the client authentication thing should look like, because I think we already have some certificate authentication thingies. Is that username, password, LDAP? What is that exactly?
Yes, the LINSTOR's controller already has a LDAP integration. I think nobody's aware of it. So it should be able to authenticate against LDAP. And I guess we will also add that the usernames and passwords can simply be in the database.
I can probably clear that up a little bit.
Please go ahead.
There is LINSTOR authentication in LINSTOR that was added, I think, as a customer request. And currently it just requires the user to be somewhere registered in LDAP and have a certain authorization in LDAP. And what LINSTOR had from the beginning is its own identities, roles, and access control lists and stuff like that in the database. It's just not being used. And what we are adding now is, on one hand, integration with LDAP, so that when someone authenticates with LDAP, it automatically creates a user in LINSTOR's own data structures. And the other possibility would be to authenticate the user simply with a username and a password. Or you could also possibly use a client certificate to automatically sign into LINSTOR with whatever user corresponds to that. So that would be the idea. And then you can use all the authentication, authorization possibilities that you have in LINSTOR itself. Hope that clears it up.
Yeah, thanks.
I do have a bit of a question about deprecating the stacking, and if that will involve any like work with DRBD proxy, like kind of coinciding with that, or is it more just like a straight DRBD change?
It is a change in DRBD. So DRBD proxy will stay the same as it is today. It will require that users change their configuration files. So that means on our end that we will keep support for stacking for a reasonable phase out time, which is usually years, right? But have the new way already there and encourage our users to switch to the new way because it's so much cooler.
Okay, Phil, we have a question that says, any plans of supporting erasure coding in DRBD or a different block distribution algorithm?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. We already had the plan, and there is even a, let's call it demonstration code. It's not in shape that it can be merged or master. And I mean, it's a lot of work. And at some point, we paused this idea and said, okay, let's work on all the other things. And the reason for that is DRBD is mostly used in contexts where it is about performance. So most of our demanding users run it on super fast NVMe drives, have the fastest network on the world, and expect us to deliver hundreds of thousands and more IOPS. Erasure coding is somewhat in a different direction, right? It is about better space utilization. Usually when you need erasure coding, you can sacrifice performance. So therefore, it was moving a little bit out of our focus. When I look at our current roadmap and that I see, okay, we have a plan that keeps us pretty busy for 2022. So I would say from today's point of view, I would say we are going to revisit erasure coding in 2023.
All right, good. Thanks, Gianni, for asking that. Because honestly, I was curious too.
and you know, DRBD LINSTOR, that's open source. You know, our our business model. We are an open source company, but still we need to pay paychecks. So we are in this conflict zone of I need to make money and we love open source. So it's always our customers that drive the roadmap to a certain extent, right? So if someone jumps out of the bushes and say, DRBD is perfect, the only thing that's missing is erasure coding. And look, I have here a checkbook. Well, that might convince us to change our plans, but I can share it doesn't happen every day.
Absolutely. All right, friends, anyone else have anything from maybe our development team or something new and exciting?
Hey, Phil, I have a quick question, and I suppose it may be a situation where you don't want to pick favorites, right? Kind of like children or something like that. But do you have a feature that you're most excited about, or that you think will be kind of the biggest game changer for our customers or our users in general?
Yeah, that's really a difficult one. There's so many features I'm really excited about. And sometimes it takes some time to find out if it was really all the excitement worth. For example, what we recently already merged is this receiving acknowledgements in the bottom half context. So I was really so much excited about it, but we need to do a big a performance evaluation to see if it really pays off. And yeah, I'm also always absolutely excited about the LINSTOR developments. I think LINSTOR is such a cool piece of software, and the community at a larger scale has not yet understood what it is capable of. And so I'm very much excited about all of LINSTOR. And I wish we get the perfect marketing idea to get the word out about it. Thanks for the question to not picking a favorite.
Yeah, thanks for sure.
Talking about exciting features or exciting new features, you talked today about the DRBD 9.2 release, and there were 3 exciting changes. Any input on that?
Yeah, so let me recap from top of my head. So it is better coordination between resync and application I/O. We didn't have a nice and short title for it, but let me explain it. If you have a high IOPS I/O subsystem and a very demanding application, let's say a database, and 24/7 you're updating in that database like crazy, right? Every second, I don't know, tens or hundreds of transactions. And then it happens that this database writes its write-ahead log to the same position on disk. And let's say you have a file system like ext4 that does update in place. Then also the file system will always write to the same blocks. And now if you need to do a resync in parallel with the current DRBD, this resync would stop and never continue over this point because it's blocked by the ongoing application I/O. So it is a very, very small fraction of our user base which is affected by this problem. So I would say it's in the part per million of our user base. But you know, you have this one customer, you find out, oh, we are doing something wrong. So therefore, I think it's an exciting thing. It doesn't affect that many users. It affects all the users in the way that it improves this concurrency of application and resync for all of them. So that was number one. Number two is the faster ACK processing. And that is cool because once again, it reduces latency of write requests and it reduces CPU usage of DRBD, and even it also reduces memory usage only by I think 16K per resource. But if you have thousands of resources on a server, that can add up. Yeah,
I added them in the chat, the 3 items. So
yeah,
you mentioned ACK already.
Yeah, thanks, Niels. I saw it. I
Okay.
use it now. And the third one is the RDMA transport. And the RDMA transport, you might know it was a enterprise add-on feature. We had closed source. And I decided that we make it part of the open source offering due to various reasons. Mainly this eases the maintenance. So we can integrate it into our regular CI loop. We can make sure it doesn't settle dust on it and falls behind. And yeah, RDMA networking is exciting stuff. Again, the high-end users. In that area, you can also already buy, I think, 200 gigabit network cards and maybe 400 gigabit networking. So exciting stuff. You know what's coming to my mind right now? It would be cool if we could share how the LINSTOR GUI looks.
Ooh, yeah, it would.
But hey, my dear developer friends, does one of you has a demo cluster with the new LINBIT GUI running? If yes, stand up and share your screen.
Is the new one installed on the Foxes now?
Yes, but there is this strange thing that on SwiftFox it shows the 0.4 version. And
where is the version shown?
you know, it's the old graphics. With
no,
the one
it's
the
not,
zero.
not wait, share because
Oh
it's
yeah,
not
share.
on mine.
Please share.
Is this the correct one?
Perfect, René. Please give us a small walkthrough.
Okay, this is the dashboard. So yeah, this is the UI of one of our internal clusters we use as Open Nebula instance, and it has actually only 4 nodes. There's 1 node for testing added, which doesn't exist. It's just a broken node, so to say, which is called test node from Liang, and it's offline because it's not there. So here you have the node list. And yeah, this is the new UI. I don't know if anyone has seen the old one. It looks a bit cool, I think, the new one. You can also, and it's just not only for read only, you can also add nodes here and I guess also delete them, which I won't do because it's not test server, it's really some kind of internal production server for us. You can view the storage pools. So we have LVM pools and 1 LVM fin on our SSD pool. Yeah, just 1 interface for them here defined. Then you can look at the resource groups in the cluster and also
add and edit them. All pretty fancy. This is all written now with, I think, React.js. And yeah.
Is this available right now?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is,
Yes.
as far as I know, from our repositories
Awesome. Okay.
for
Yes.
customers.
This is available right now in the customers of the repositories for the enterprise customers. And right now there is a small graphical revamp in the works, so the look and feel gets a little bit updated. It will get nice icons next to all these textual labels. So that's in the works, and soon it will also get the new objects we have in LINSTOR, so LINSTOR remotes and even the LINSTOR files, but we will hide that a little bit. Yeah.
Hey Phil, is there an event stream going to be in this dashboard? See errors and changes.
Well, event stream, we just have this error report listing an event stream in that sense. So you mean that one can view any change that was made, something like that?
Yeah, if you think of typical dashboards that are coalescing a lot of, distributed systems, you need something that kind of filters out and elevates the issues and when they get handled. So I'm thinking of the operators trying to manage your future of edge clouds and things like that. It's a daunting task, and I think the knowledge could be captured inside this dashboard to help do the filtering and the actions needed and taken.
I think that's a good suggestion. I take note of that.
Right on. Thanks, Tom. So just an FYI for the future, I believe we're going to be doing this sort of community meeting once a quarter. So tell your friends to come, and it'll be fun. Again, super casual. I don't know if most of you are current customers or not, but we have a pretty active Slack channel as well if you want to hit us up there. So feel free. Otherwise, you can contact your account manager or submit a support ticket if you have more ideas. If they come to you in the night, let us know. So otherwise, yeah, I guess we can close it up. And it was super fun chatting in this kind of different scenario other than just a webinar or something. So I enjoyed it, and I hope all of you did too.